Good morning, class. I'm Lovely Bayos, your teacher for today, and our topic is about global climate phenomenon. But before that, here is the objectives. At the end of the 30-minute discussion, at least 75% of the students are expected to A. Describe the factors and effects of climate change. And B. Cite some recommendation to lessen the effects of climate change. So, when you hear the words global climate phenomenon, what comes in your mind? Any idea, class? Okay, global climate phenomenon is about climatic phenomena that occur on a global level. And in order to understand this topic, I have here the sequence ideas. It will cover about the topic climate change, factors in its effects, global warming, the two cyclical events that we encounter, El Nino and La Nina, and the recommendation. From the previous lesson, Ma'am Dayan tackled about the factors that affect climate. So what are those again? Yes, very good. Those are the latitude, altitude, distance from the ocean, ocean currents, and topography. She also discussed the difference between the climate and the weather. Climate is the average weather condition of a place for a longer period of time, while the weather, it is the condition of the atmosphere in a place for a short period of time. So, having those ideas, what is climate change? Is it for real? Is climate change man-made, or is it just a natural occurrence? So, those are just a few questions that can be asked once we talk about climate change. Climate change is the global phenomenon of climate transformation characterized by the changes in the usual climate of the planet regarding temperature, precipitation, and wind that are especially caused by the human activities. It refers to seasonal changes over a long period of time. So, when we say climate change, it is one of the most worldwide issues. Ito yung long-term shifting ng global weather pattern. Sa madaling salita, pagbabago-bago ng panahon. Tandaan nyo, class, na ang Earth's climate is dynamic and always changing. What are the factors that affect climate change? So, there are two factors that contribute to climate change. First is the natural factors which involve the volcanic eruptions, ocean current, Earth orbital changes, and forest fire. Another one is the artificial factors which are the human activities, emission of greenhouse gases, and solar radiation. Paano ba nakakaapekto ang volcanic eruption sa climate change? Ganito yon. Once na sumabog ang bulkan o volcano, naglalabas ito ng large volumes ng sulfur dioxide, water vapor, dust, and ash sa atmosphere. Kahit yung volcanic activity tumatagal lang ng ilang araw, yung large volumes naman ng gases and ash ay pwedeng maka-influence sa climate patterns for years. Bakit? Kasi millions of tons ng sulfur dioxide gas ang pwedeng maabot ang upper levels ng atmosphere, which is called the stratosphere, from a major eruption. Next is the ocean current. The oceans are a major component of the climate system. Ocean currents move vast amounts of heat across the planet. Ocean can affect weather and climate by playing an important role in keeping our planet warm. Kasi, yung majority ng radiation na galing sa sun is naa-absorb yun ng ocean, especially sa mga tropical waters around the equator. And then, nadidistribute na yung heat around the globe. Kapag ang water molecules are heated, they exchange freely with the air in a process called evaporation, which is increasing temperature and humidity. Yung ocean current naman, it will either cool or warm the air above them. Nakakaapekto ang ocean current sa temperature ng nearby landmass. Kapag ang warm current move from the equator towards poles, it brings warm water. Kapag cold current naman travel or move from the poles towards the equator, it brings cold water. Another natural factors is the Earth orbital changes. The Earth makes one full orbit around the Sun each year. It is tilted at an angle 23.5 degrees to the perpendicular plane of its orbital path. Changes in the tilt of the Earth lead to small but climatically important changes in the strength of the seasons. Changes in the tilt of the Earth can affect the severity of the seasons. More tilt means warmer summers and colder winters. Less tilt means cooler summers and milder winters. The last natural factors is the forest fire. A wildfire is any uncontrolled fire in an area of combustible vegetation that occurs in the countryside or a wilderness area. So, paano ba nagiging cause ang forest fire ng climate change? Kasi, yung forest fire nag-i-emit siya ng smoke and carbon into the atmosphere, which continue to warm the planet. The second factors that affect climate change is the artificial factors. It involves the human activities. There is strong evidence that climate change over the last half-century has been caused largely by human activity, such as the burning of fossil fuels and including agriculture and deforestation. Kahit yung mga experts o scientists, lahat sila nag-a-agree na ang pag-warm ng Earth natin o mga pagbabagong nararanasan ay mas napapabilis because of human activities. For example, burning fossil fuels. When we say fossil fuels, ito yung mga natural fuel like coal, oil, or gas. Halimbawa, sa mga transportation, mga cars, buses, and trucks na ginagamitan ng petrol and diesel. So, nagpo-produce ito ng carbon dioxide which is nakakaapekto ito sa climate change. Another human activities is the agriculture. So, halimbawa, sa mga farmers na nagagamit ng fertilizer, dahil dito, nagpo-produce ito ng nitrous oxide. Another human activities is the deforestation. So, ito yung pagpuputol ng mga puno para sa mga building materials, for fuel, at mga papel na ginagamit natin sa school o sa work. Minsan ba naisip nyo man lang kung gaano karaming puno ang nagagamit natin sa isang araw? Alam naman natin na ang mga puno ay nakakatulong yan para ma-regulate ang climate natin by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So, imagine kapag yung mga punong yan ay pinutol, paano ba ito nakakaapekto sa climate change? So, merong dalawang paraan kung paano ito nakakaapekto. Una, the release of carbon dioxide during deforestation process. Bakit? Kasi yung mga carbon na nakastored sa mga trees will release into the atmosphere, adding to the greenhouse effect. Pangalawa, the reduction in the amount of carbon dioxide that forest can capture. Halimbawa, yung mga carbon dioxide na pinoproduce sa mga factory, imbis na sa puno yun dederecho, kasi nga ina-absorb ng trees ang carbon dioxide. At the same time, sila yung nagsishade para di ito makarating sa atmosphere. So, kapag pinutol ang mga puno, wala nang magka-capture ng carbon dioxide. Ang mangyayari, dederecho na siya sa atmosphere, which adding to the greenhouse effect. Next is the emission of greenhouse gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, and CFC or chlorofluorocarbons. Water vapor is actually a greenhouse gas. Yung pag-increase ng water vapor in the air can also further increase warming. And pwede rin itong maka-form ng powerful storm. Halimbawa naman ng mga carbon dioxide emission is yung sinabi ko nga kanina about sa burning fossil fuels like sa mga transportation at sa mga thermal power plants. Aside from that, another common examples are the human and animal breath and even yung utot ng tao dahil nagpo-produce ito ng carbon dioxide. Halimbawa naman ng mga methane gas that release into the atmosphere comes from cooking gas we use in our stoves and waste disposal and treatment. Yung mga basura na nabulok sa landfills ay nagpo-form ito ng methane. Pero kung yung waste is put into an incinerator and burnt in the open, carbon dioxide is emitted. So another example ng methane emissions comes from domesticated animals, gaya ng cows, goats, pigs, camels, horses, and sheep. Itong mga animals na to, nagpo-produce sila ng methane during the cud chewing process or pag nagda-digest sila ng food. So, lahat din ng pagkabulok ng mga bagay na organic ay nagbubunga ito ng methane. Ang best example naman ng nitrous oxide is yung paggamit ng mga fertilizer o pesticides sa agriculture o farming. Alam naman natin na ang fertilizer is contains of nitrogen. So, the more na fertilizer ang nilalagay means more emissions of nitrous oxide. Hindi lang yan, pollution can also result from the runoff of fertilizer into water bodies. Next is the ozone. It generates roughly 10% of the human-induced greenhouse effect. So, it is powerful greenhouse gas which destroying the stratosphere, the second layer of the atmosphere, going upwards. Next is the CFC or chlorofluorocarbons. Halimbawa naman nito is yung sa mga refrigerator. Yung air from refrigerating contains chlorofluorocarbons. And also yung mga spray cans or cleaning agents which contribute to emit in the atmosphere. Another artificial factors is the solar radiation. 51% of the solar radiation absorbed by Earth, 20% scattered by the clouds, 19% absorbed by clouds and atmosphere, and 6% scattered by atmosphere, 4% reflected by the surface. So yung halimbawa naman ng mga solar radiation is yung sa mga solar panel na ginagamit ng tao. Yung greenhouse gases, hindi naman siya totally bad thing. It also plays an important role in keeping the earth warm. Kasi, sa tingin nyo, ano mangyayari kapag walang greenhouse gases? Siyempre, yung earth would be very cold if there were no greenhouse gases that absorb heat. By the way, tinawag siyang greenhouse kasi alam niyo yung sa tanim? Yung color green na nagsaserve as house or shield para yung tanim hindi sobrang maka-absorb ng heat na pwedeng ikamatay ng halaman. So, parang ganun din yung sa Earth. Yung greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere act like a glass in a greenhouse, which trapping the sun's heat. Many of these gases occur naturally, means some gases are present in the atmosphere before the human activity. Ang ikinasasama lang nito kapag sobra-sobra na yung greenhouse gases na nasa atmosphere because of human activity. Dito na papasok yung greenhouse effect. Ito yung effect o pag-increase ng global temperature kapag sobrang amount of greenhouse gases ang nasa atmosphere. So, what are the effects of climate change? So, yung main effect ng climate change is of course the global warming. When we say global warming, it is the increase of Earth's average surface temperature due to effect of greenhouse gases. Ito yung long-term distribution of heat and precipitation on Earth's surface. Yung main cause ng global warming is also the greenhouse effect or greenhouse gas emission. The other effects of climate change are melting of polar icebergs and glacier, sea level rising, health risks, effects on organisms and environment, and changes in precipitation patterns. First is the melting of polar icebergs and glacier. Dahil sa climate change, mas napapabilis ang pagmelt ng mga ice ngayon kumpara noon. Karamihan din sa mga mountain glaciers ay lumiliit dahil sa pagtunaw. It results in flooding and erosion of coastal and low-lying areas. Another effects of climate change is sea level rising. It causes in two ways. First, thermal expansion of the oceans or water expands as it warms. Second, melting of land ice. Siyempre, kapag nagmelt yung mga icebergs and glaciers, magi-increase din yung water. Another effects of climate change is health risk. Once global temperature is rising, magi-increase rin yung heat-related illnesses and deaths. Halimbawa, yung heat stroke, pati na din yung waterborne illnesses and diseases vectors, and also the allergy from air pollution. So, human health issues imposes having cost in society and the economy. Next is the effects on organisms. So, hindi lang tao yung naaapektuhan ng climate change. Merong mga species ng birds na nangingitlog ng mas maaga than usual. Meron ding mga species ng plants na nagbo-bloom ng mas maaga kaysa sa inaasahan. Another example is yung mga animals na nakatira sa forest. Once na magkaroon ng forest fire or deforestation, mapipilitan silang mag-migrate o mag-move into another location. Pati na din ang mga aquatic species. Halimbawa, pag nag-melt ang ice, so it will destroy their habitat and harm animals. So, kapag limited lang ang maka-adapt into new location, magkakaroon ng extinction, which affects the entire food chain. Overall, as a result of unbalancing the weather of Earth, the sustainability of the planet's ecosystems is under threat as well as the future of humankind and the stability of the global economy. And last, changes in precipitation patterns. Climate change also affects natural disasters. Why? Because as more water vapor is evaporated into the atmosphere, it becomes fuel for more powerful storms to develop. Kapag ang climate change mas lumala pa ng lumala, dangerous weather events are becoming more intense or severe. Kung mapapansin nyo, ang mga bagyo ngayon ay mas lumalakas pa compare sa dapat nating asahan. Hindi lang bagyo, pati na din ang iba pang mga weather events such as droughts, heat waves, hurricanes, wildfires, and floods. So, take a look at this picture. Anong mapapansin nyo? From 1979 to 2007. Sa 1979, medyo madami pa yung ice. Pagdating ng 2007, kumonte kasi natunaw na yung ice. So, yan yung example or evidence ng climate change. Another effects of climate change is acid rain. Acid rain is a rain or any other form of precipitation that is unusually acidic. Acid rain is caused by emissions of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, which react with the water molecules in the atmosphere to produce acids. We all know that sulfur dioxide dissolves easily in water to form sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is a major component of acid rain. Another evidence of climate change is death from health risk. 262 million people were affected by climate disasters in 2004, more than 98% of them in developing countries. This is the statistical statement of rising sea levels. And this is the statistical statement of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. From the year 2000, we are here at this level of 390 ppm. This statistical statement illustrates how they are all rise from the floods at the year of 2000, but Asia has the greatest number of major floods. What did you notice from this picture? Okay, very good. The ice or glacier melt and turns into water. So how about this picture? The ice or glacier melt and because of the climate change and sobrang init that time, it turns into grass. Aside from these impacts of the climate change that we are experiencing, we still have two cyclical events that we encounter, the El Niño and La Niña. El Niño and La Niña are a global climate phenomena caused by cyclical shifts in the water temperature of the Pacific Ocean. Each event lasts between 9 to 12 months and on average occurs every 2 to 7 years. So yung El Niño and La Niña are natural occurring climate patterns. They influence both temperature and rainfall. El Niño is a term for the warming pace of the El Niño Southern Oscillation or ENSO, a cyclical weather pattern that influences temperature and rainfall across the global. So yung El Niño is the warming pace of water temperature around the Pacific equator. In Southeast Asia, ito yung tinatawag na sobrang tagtuyot. While La Niña is a cooling pace of ENSO that leads to have global climate impacts opposite to this of El Niño, may but does not always follow El Niño event. Yung La Niña naman is the opposite of El Niño. Ito yung tinatawag na heavy rainfall. Why do El Niño and La Niña occur? El Niño and La Niña results from interaction between the surface of the ocean and the atmosphere in the tropical Pacific. Changes in the ocean impact the atmosphere and climate patterns around the globe. In turn, changes in atmosphere impact the ocean, temperature, and currents. So what are the effects of El Niño and La Niña? El Niño and its warm waters are associated with drought, while La Niña is linked to increased flooding. But because the global weather system is very complex, this isn't always the case. For example, in 2015, the El Niño caused both flooding and droughts in the different places. This illustrates both how these climate events can become climate disasters. Remember that climate change might intensify the effects of El Niño and La Niña. To mitigate climate change, I have here the recommendation: reduce carbon dioxide emission, reduce CFC emission or chlorofluorocarbons, and reduce deforestation. So burn less fossil fuel. When possible, walk or ride your bike in order to avoid carbon emissions completely. You can also drive a low-carbon vehicle or a sustainable transportation like bicycle. Next is to avoid the use of large amounts of CFC in refrigeration, cleaning agents, and mobile air conditioning. Plant trees for shade and carbon dioxide uptake. Since hindi naman natin mapipigilan na pumutol ng puno kasi nga pinagkukunan din natin ito ng mga materyales, just make sure lang na bago tayo pumutol ng puno, may pamalit na. Thank you for listening. I hope you understand my discussion. As for your evaluation, choose the letter that corresponds to the correct answer. There are 10 items. And for your assignment, cite two specific actions or situations on how are you contributing to climate change, what its effect, cite some ways on how to mitigate climate change, and also research and make an advanced reading about our next topic.